Hi, my name is Dr. Glenn Fink. I am the author of the new book, The Gospel, God's Great Undoing. It's coming out in the fall. And the mission of this book is to show how God is demonstrating His goodness as the only option. His proof is the loving way He designed the universe and what He did when we messed it up and what we can be because of what He did. So, last time, we talked about how if the Genesis creation narrative is true and the universe is only 10,000 years old or so, how can we see distant light from objects billions of light years away? Well, the answer is God stretched out the heavens faster than light, leaving behind clues like redshift, the cosmic microwave background, and evidence of faster than light expansion in the ancient heavens. So this time, we're going to talk about why does it look like everything is moving away from us at top speed? What's this redshift thing and how does it prove creationism? Well, recall, first of all, that light takes time to travel. We don't see things as they are, we see them as they were when the light left them. And God started the heavens small and stretched out space so that we would be able to see His glory through the light from all the stars in the universe, even though they were much more distant than we should be able to see. Redshift is one of those fingerprints that God left behind when He stretched out the heavens. And please note that God did not just stretch out the stars and galaxies into space. He stretched out space itself. The Bible says He stretched out the heavens. And the galaxies and all the stars expanded into as He was stretching out the space, much like if you have a balloon, and let's say these little dots are stars on it, and I stretch out the heavens by blowing it up. You notice that all the stars on it get much further apart than they were before, and that's because all of space is expanding too. So God did the same sort of thing, only it was much more intelligent than that. Anyway, so what happens to light when things get stretched? Well, it lengthens and it looks redder than it should. And how do we know it's redder? Well, if you pass light through a prism, it spreads out to make a spectrum like a rainbow. And the colors you see are from the kinds of elements that are burning to make the light that you see from the star. But there are also dark marks in the spectrum that are predictable places where parts of the light are blocked because elements are missing or elements are blocking those emissions. And by studying the spectrums from many different stars, we can see common places where the holes are left where they in the light. So let's say this is a spectrum and these are the holes that are there. Well, if light is redshifted, that means an object is moving away from us, and the holes in the spectrum that should be there are moved toward the red side of the spectrum. So we have is moved this direction, all the black things are together. Now, if they move the other direction, it's called blue shift. If light is red shifted, that means that the object is moving away from the observer. If it were blue shifted instead, the object would be approaching. So think of an ambulance passing by. The sound waves are compressed as it approaches because it's coming the same direction as the sound waves are. And that means that it makes that wana, wana, wana high-pitched sound, and when it passes you, it goes wana, wana, wana. It goes lower pitched. So with sound, we hear pitch as the change as the waves of sound lengthen or compress. With light, we see color changes. So light that's moving from an object moving toward us is bluer than it would ordinarily be, and light that's coming from an object that's moving away from us is redder than it ought to be. More redshift means greater speed, for faster moving away from us. So here's the problem. Usually we can use trigonometry to determine how far things are away from us. We just look at it from two different angles and make a connection there. But when you're talking about far away galaxies and distant stars outside of our galaxy, we really can't use trigonometry because they look the same from every angle. But Edwin Hubble and Georges Lemaitre noticed in the 1930s that among the objects that we can measure the distance trigonometrically with accuracy, those objects, the further they are, the greater they are redshifted. And so they made the conclusion that perhaps it's true of even the most distant objects that their redshift amount tells us how far away they are. And that's how scientists came up with this idea that the universe, the furthest things we can see are about 13.8 billion light years away, give or take, So this is the principle of the expanding universe. It's known as the Hubble-Lemaitre law. And it leads us to believe the whole universe is expanding, and as it expands, it's slowing. So there's one problem. Well, this is one of the problems with the Big Bang model. This rate of expansion that we can see, we can actually observe this rate of expansion as measured by the systematic redshift. It doesn't match the predicted mass of the universe that we can observe. and how evenly spread out it is, and many other observations. So to make the model work, cosmologists have had to invent fudge factors. There's not really a better way to put it. Dark matter and dark energy. Dark energy means we need more energy than we can see, than we can account for. Dark matter means we need more gravity than we can account for. And here's the problem. You can't see these things. You can't detect them. You can't determine that they're there. There's no way to scientifically observe them. No one has ever observed dark matter or dark energy. They have just hypothesized they're there. They believe based on the movements of planets that they can see dark energy and dark matter, but they got no real proof of it, except that you need it to make the model work. Now, the problem with it is when you add all those fudge factors and you have to do all this ridiculous amount of fine-tuning to make the Big Bang model work without a God, you almost would never, you would expect it to be totally impossible to see all these needed conditions come true at the same time to produce the universe where we live, or to produce any kind of universe where matter formation is possible and then life would be possible to live. So, but in a creation-based model where God purposefully stretches out the heavens, it does make sense. If he purposely stretched out the second heavens, the first heavens is the sky, the second heavens is the stars and the galaxies and all of known space. The third heavens, he's stretching out the second heavens into the third heavens where he dwells. If he's doing that, it makes sense. And in the Hubble-Lemaitre observations, they make perfect sense. We don't have to add dark matter and dark energy to explain how God is purposely doing it. We can say, okay, I can see what God is doing. We can simply observe what God is doing and measure what God is doing and how fast he did it. By the way, as I mentioned, dark matter and dark energy are not just lightless black stuff. They are, by definition, things that you absolutely cannot observe and that only weakly, if at all, interact with normal matter. They have never yet been directly observed, but atheistic science takes on faith that they must exist because otherwise they can't explain all the fine-tuning that their ideas call for. And here's the dirty little secret. You don't just need a little bit of dark stuff to make the models work. You don't just need like 10% or 20% or 50%. You need 96% of all the matter in the universe to be made out of stuff you can't see, touch, feel, experiment with, observe at all. That means the Big Bang universe model is 4% observable and 96% what? Fairy dust? I don't know. I don't mean to be ugly about it, but we have no observation of it. We only have mathematical models. We have no evidence that it exists other than it's got to work, otherwise we can't make our models work. But are we that confident in our models? I think it's way more sensible to believe in God, in a rational God who does this. So in conclusion, Redshift is a fingerprint of creation showing how God stretched out the heavens in an orderly manner. We may not be able to detect God with our telescopes or scientific instruments, but neither can we detect 96% of the universe in an atheistic version of the Big Bang. And we certainly can't see the billions of hypothesized other universes that were invented just to make ours seem more likely. After all the fine-tuning design adjustments you have to make for this cosmic accident to happen where we live, it just makes more sense to believe a designer was responsible for the order we see. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Please ask your questions below, subscribe below, share this video. We'd love to engage you with questions. Look out for the book coming out this fall, The Gospel, God's Great Undoing. I'd love it if you'd subscribe and help me get the message out to people. And next time we're going to talk about another fingerprint of God in creation that the Big Bang model has to call inflation. And it's not just for governments anymore. So, anyway, God bless you, and thank you for watching.